Hello, thanks for watching the channel. Matt Smith here. As always, make sure you like and subscribe. Helps me out a ton. 34-23, the final here at Folsom Field as Colorado dominates Cincinnati in a game that probably wasn't as close as the final score indicated. The Bearcats kind of made things a little bit closer in the second half, but quite frankly, this is the most dominant win on this field for Colorado. Nebraska's margin may have been bigger, but this one was far more significant and against a much better opponent. Both teams coming in 5-2, 3-1, right? Winner secures bowl eligibility, and that's what Colorado was able to do tonight, okay? I mean, in a real regular season, this is the first time since the Buffs will have gone bowling since 2016, okay? They haven't won a bowl game since 2004. It's been a very long time. And Coach Prime's goal of getting Peggy to a bowl game, well, they accomplished that tonight. Now, it's just about competing for the Big 12 and, maybe the college football playoff and whatever else is to come down the line. But Colorado, certainly by the second bye week, having already secured bowl eligibility, should to a degree relieve a little bit of pressure from the situation. You're still in the hunt for the Big 12 title race, 4-1 in conference, just one loss. Texas Tech lost today, and when you rejoin action, you'll be in Lubbock and you'll have a leg up on the Red Raiders already, which is certainly a great feeling heading into the bye week, and we'll see what happens next week. But this was a really good performance from all three phases, I thought, overall. The second half was a bit lackluster again, similar to what we saw in Arizona, just, maybe not smooth, and certainly when Cincinnati went up-tempo and kind of went with a faster pace, some substitution issues really plagued the Buffs, and, Coach Prime was not happy with that. After the game, he talked about how he really wanted to land the plane smoother, right? And, look, I think overall, just when you go into halftime up by 10, right, you're getting the ball back coming out of the second half, well, you feel pretty good about where you're at. You're in the driver's seat. You just need to put this away. And eventually, Colorado did take the 17-point lead, and it was just way too much for Cincinnati to have to overcome, right? Alejandro Mata burying the 47-yard field goal, essentially sealing this game, putting Colorado back up by 2 scores. Massive, massive. And I don't know if it would have been good from 51, but it was good from 47, and that's all that matters. Mata was very upset with himself post-game, but no reason to. He sealed the win, and, I think he has higher expectations for himself, but quite frankly, that was a massive kick at a big moment because Colorado had left a lot of time there on the clock if they gave the ball back to Cincinnati, and making that was just enormous for Colorado. Now, look, that's how it finished. They get the double-digit win, dominant fashion, national television, now 6-2, maybe ranked in the top 25, but Coach Prime doesn't want to be. He pleaded afterwards in the post-game press conference, please don't rank us. Please don't rank us. We're good where we are. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. At the end of the day, rankings don't matter, truthfully. The first college football playoff rankings don't come out. I think it's like election night, actually, that they come out, I imagine. I'm sure we'll check on it, but probably be a little distracted by some other stuff going on that evening. However, this night was all about Colorado, as it was last weekend, I felt like, and you're seeing consistency, you're seeing an identity. How about this? It just gets 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row that Colorado has outrun the amount they threw the ball. That is a huge sign of progress for this team. A, the game dictates it because they were in the lead. They had a comfortable lead, and they were trying to chew up some clock. And I thought, altogether, the execution overall offensively, on top of the fact that they were able to extend drives, just constantly take chunks off of the game clock, really helped them tonight. And certainly, Cincinnati with a little bit of momentum, if they had gotten into this thing maybe a little bit earlier, maybe it looks different down the stretch there. But, they threatened a little bit, but Colorado responded with a massive drive. Travis Hunter, 35-yard catch, another one to LeJohntay, and then you kind of stall out. But again, Mata buries it, and, Colorado takes this thing and puts it on ice for a week, which I think is a good thing. Travis Hunter banged up on that 35-yard catch. And also Shedeur Sanders, I think it was a quarterback hit a little bit earlier in the game, kind of, took a second to get off the field, then went over to the exercise bike. He was definitely feeling it in the post-game press conference. He struggled to sit down a little bit, and he said that the bye week comes at a perfect time. And if you've been watching the channel, it's something that we've been talking about. The way the schedule broke up for the Buffs, with the bye being after the UCF game, and then the 3-pack of games against Kansas State, right, Arizona, and Cincinnati. You wanted 3-0, you go with 2-1, so you accomplish what your ultimate goal is, and that's staying in the Big 12 race. And obviously, the Kansas State game certainly sticks in your craw just a little bit, considering the fact that they're 6-2 right now. But there is everything still in front of this team. Now, they'll need a little help, and like I said, they got a little bit today from Texas Tech. Kansas gave Kansas State a good run for their money, but could not pull it off. Either way, you had several different things happen here tonight. Travis Hunter, who had played for the most part in just the first half of the last 2 games, and then either due to injury or resting him or however you want to describe it, well, he comes back with a monster game tonight, finishes with 10 catches, almost 120 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, including a massive one at the end of the first half that we'll get to in just a second. But on top of what he did defensively, what do you have, 3 pass breakups? He played well over 125 snaps, I think, tonight. And, again, Coach Prime in the post-game press conference and Shedeur echoing the same sentiments that he is the best player in the country. And truthfully, if you watch college football every weekend, you're watching the SEC, you're watching the Big Ten, and you watch Travis Hunter, you know who the best is. And it's that young man who plays both sides of the ball and makes a tremendous impact on both sides of the football. And what he did tonight was, again, special, and he's right back in the race. If he felt like maybe it was gone, and we talked about it in the post-game recap, I don't know, because I wasn't sure about his status for this week. Now that he played, now that he dominated, you've got this game. And remember, Ashton Jeanty, now, albeit produced, and put up numbers, but also missed 2 different second halves. So, I don't really have an issue with him being right in it still. Both of those guys, I think they're in the race. And the other guy that's in the race is Shedeur Sanders. And I truthfully hope that he starts popping up in Heisman ballots this week. It's been ridiculous that he hasn't been. He's the best quarterback in the country. He talked tonight about how they're not going to have 2 from the same team. They absolutely should. They got the best quarterback and the best non-quarterback in the country. Cam Ward deserves to be in there as well, but Colorado has 2 legitimate Heisman candidates. Whether or not Shedeur wants to give himself the praise, which he kind of shied away from. I feel like it's more down at backs than they normally do, but whatever. Anyway, look, Colorado has 2 legitimate Heisman contenders, and quite frankly, I know that award, while, yeah, okay, it means a lot, they would gladly sacrifice it if it meant winning a Big 12 title. But the truth is, you find a way to put yourself in a position where you're in the conversation, you win out. Everything else is going to take care of itself, and I can promise you that Shedeur and Travis will have a lot to do if they end up getting there. But look, Colorado rushed the ball extremely effectively tonight. And again, the second consecutive game that they ran the ball more than they threw it. It's a balanced offense, right? Cincinnati, I think Shedeur brought the number up in the postgame, 3rd most in the country percentage-wise, dropping 8. You're going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to gash them. Coach Prime talked about that this week in the well-off videos. We have to run the football. Well, they did it tonight. Another game over 100 yards, consecutive games. And look, this is an offense that's growing, that's maturing, and you're starting to see some legitimate development. And again, a topic that we've been talking about all season, identity, right? Identity. They hadn't really formed one, okay, heading into the season, or really at any point a good identity. They kind of formed a bad one last year, and this year didn't start off great, and man, have they made some strides. You just have to give so much credit to Coach Prime, the entire coaching staff, for having these guys dialed in. And one thing that Coach Prime told us this week is, look, we haven't been our best during night games. I think it's something that most fans understand, that hasn't been their best. They're a daytime team, right? They practice in the morning. Well, they did things differently, some later practices, and it definitely paid off. Another fast start. Just, has way more interruptions than I wanted to happen, so thanks for sticking with me. They started fast again, back-to-back weeks. You score on your opening drive, and it just set a really good tone. And first of all, they scored twice, technically, on their opening drive. Jimmy Horn with the 47-yard touchdown that did get called back due to that taunting penalty, which is wild. You really don't see that all that much, but Colorado was able to convert nonetheless. And, they gave you a little bit of everything tonight. And I thought they had a very solid game plan, used the pre-snap motion, got back to 11 personnel. They run the ball so much better when they've got Savell Smalls on the field. And you have to credit this offensive line. I thought this offensive line, they've got this new strategy where they're kind of rotating the guards, right? I believe they started tonight with Justin Mayers and with Kareem Harden, and then we saw Tyler Brown and Khalil Benson, and then we saw Benson and Mayers, and then it was Brown and Harden. They've got this rotation where they feel really comfortable with 4 guys, so that is depth that you don't apologize for. You're very grateful for. That you have 4 different guards you are more than comfortable putting out onto the field. And Colorado's offensive line has found some rhythm. Shedeur Sanders talked tonight about how, our pattern is like 1 good game from the line, 1 bad game. Well, they snapped that. They got 2 consecutive good games. He was sacked just the 1 time tonight, and he said that sack was Travis's fault. He kind of alluded to the fact that he loafed on that route, but he was hanging on, then just got drilled. He got drilled, so he knows he has to be better, and certainly he's feeling the effects of that sack and some other, touches. But honestly, by and large, they had a lot of time to throw the ball tonight, but you're throwing against, 8 DBs. I mean, there's not a lot of room to operate, and even still, I thought Shedeur was outstanding just from an efficiency standpoint, obviously a production standpoint, and, they spread the ball out. Jimmy Horn involved a lot early. Will Shepard fighting that twisted ankle, for him, huge that it's the bye week. He was grinding, coming back in and out, made a big catch and looked like his ankle just got caught in the turf and re-aggravated it even worse. Did end up coming back into the game, but had the touchdown, kind of dropped it, tough catch anyway. Either way, the Buffs tonight, they capitalized on the opportunities that they needed to, right? Except for coming out of the locker room, right, first drive. Although, that being said, they followed it right back up. They followed it right back up with a score the next drive, and that was because their defense did a really good job, I thought, by and large. Talking about what they did on third down, 7 of 13 on third down. Again, extending drives, staying on the field, keeping Cincinnati's defense on the field on an island, their offense on the sideline, let them get cold a little bit. And meanwhile, how about their defense? Held Cincinnati to 3 of 10 third down conversions. They really weren't extending many drives. The first half, 14-14, you go, oh, well, maybe we're getting a shootout here. And then Colorado's defense bowed their backs, and it was the 4th down stop at the end of the first half that changed the entire game, right? Turnover on downs. Colorado had 28 seconds, ran 5 plays, 54 yards in 28 seconds, and finished it with Travis Hunter's 2nd touchdown of the day. You had a 3-point lead. Now it's a 10-point lead. Completely flipped the game on its head, and Colorado didn't really look back. And just another altogether very impressive performance, and you're stacking them, and you're building, and you're developing, and you've dealt with injury, you've dealt with guys redshirting, and overall, anybody who can watch this team play and say they're not real or say it's some sort of flash in the pan, you don't hear anybody talking about just Shedeur and Travis anymore, do you? This team is so much more than just those 2 guys, and it took a little while for it to really show and for everybody to get on the same page, and you're starting to see, you're starting to see some continuity and some cohesiveness that we know we never saw last year, and quite frankly, it's just building and building and building and building. In each game, you can feel that buy-in getting a little deeper and a little greater, and that's when you build a hungry team. And, obviously, coming out of the bye week, they didn't perform and they weren't as sharp as they wanted to be against Kansas State. Coach Prime said, nobody's getting a full week off. Nobody's getting a full week off. We will be practicing this week, and obviously having that bye week earlier in the season gives you a great opportunity to learn from maybe some of the stuff you did so you can be sharper coming out of the bye week. Overall, penalties in the first half were a storyline. They had 3 for 40 yards, but they were big and inopportune moments. One of them wiped out an interception, the Jimmy Horn touchdown, and one other one offensively that escapes me right now, but was significant. Overall, Colorado, I believe, just 5 penalties tonight. Discipline, ran the football well. They were efficient. They controlled the time of possession in this game. Check, check, check. And they even got the ball into the end zone. You'll have to forgive me. I forget the young man's name who they had at place kicker, but they've been kind of rotating just to see if they couldn't find somebody, and he's wearing the jersey, and tonight actually up there I got to do something cool with some of the journalism students here, and I called the game, did play-by-play. I used to do that, when I was their age all those years ago, and I got to do a game and kind of teach everybody last year and had a bunch of kids in there, and it was a blast. And this year, great group of students that we had up there, and everybody did such a great job. But that's why maybe you hear my voice a little bit hoarse, but covered the game a little bit differently tonight. It's a ton of fun being back up there in the booth. Play-by-play is, love it. I love it. And yeah, look, it was overall another, by and large, except for the end where it kind of gets shaky, kind of a carefree second half. I would say most everyone stayed up until late. I mean, what time is it now? Like 1:40 in the morning? I won't be getting to bed here for a while. But you have to credit everyone, and maybe some people left because, well, Colorado was dominating. Colorado wasn't going to lose this game. You're used to people leaving early because you're on the other end of that stick. Not tonight. And this overall, again, like I said, Nebraska's margin may have been bigger. I think this was Colorado's best win at home. And certainly they're right in the conversation for the Big 12 race. And you got some really big games here coming down the stretch after the bye week, and they know that. But again, Oklahoma State now still winless in the Big 12 after losing again today to Baylor. And, you're going to play Kansas and Utah. And, hey, man, the back end of the schedule, the home stretch looks really good. Bodies, rest this week, and come up with a real good game plan coming out of it. I think the one thing that we talked to Pat Shurmur about during the first bye, was we were kind of reflecting back in the UCF game, and he said, hey, look, we did a lot of 11, clearly. He evaluated his tendencies, changed them up, and it was extremely effective down in Central Florida. Well, he was like, well, we're primarily a 10 personnel team, so we'll probably go back to that. And I thought it bit them against Kansas State. They weren't as efficient as, again, the team that showed tonight and showed last week, and certainly not as efficient as they're capable of. And I'll be very curious to see what the strategy from a game plan standpoint is like coming out of it. Shedeur talked about how, look, we know what's coming. We just did this. We're going to have to change things up. We're going to have to throw different looks out there the next time we step out onto the field. And here we go, the home stretch. This is the most regular season wins since 2016. Okay, Colorado's gotten to 5. If you take away 2020, okay, we know they made the Alamo Bowl. They went 4-2, and basically, look, I mean, bowl eligibility was like, do you want to go? Okay, sounds good. You're bowl eligible. Well, now it's different. Now you're back to normal here to a degree, obviously to a real degree, and they've clinched the bowl eligibility. They've got more wins than they've had in a season since 2016, and they will chase that elusive bowl win that has, I think they've lost 8 out of their last 9 postseason games, if memory serves. That was the number. So, look, this is a situation where they've got to be extremely encouraged coming down the stretch because things are really coming together. You know what to expect for the most part week to week, and the coaching staff has done a really good job, in my opinion, game planning and kind of developing a strategy around where some of their weaknesses are, and you got to credit not only Robert Livingston and Pat Shurmur, who I think have done a very good job by and large this season, but Coach Prime, who this coaching staff has elevated their game. They've taken it to another level, and this was a massive one on Family Weekend. Juju Lewis was here, monster recruits in town, and what Coach Prime did tonight was he showed all those recruits, some of them I'm sure not their first visit. What he showed them is that, yeah, this thing's on the right path. And that goes a very long way, a very long way. They got a commitment from a 4-star receiver, Adrian Wilson, a little bit earlier. They got a 4-star commitment from Christian Hudson, a defensive lineman, formerly a UCF commit. They've had a really good week on the recruiting trail, and he kind of put an exclamation point on it tonight. And Coach Prime kind of teased something in the post-game pressers, like, hey, are we announcing that yet, or I don't know. And their director of football ops was like, no, not yet. So who knows? Who knows? We may have some exciting news over the bye week or maybe a little bit later. But look, I mean, as it comes to their recruiting class, we know they've been trying to lock down their centerpiece of the next class, and that is obviously Shedeur Sanders' replacement, right? And if that's Juju Lewis, who was just, by ESPN 300 in their latest rankings, named the number 2 player in the country, if that's him, that'd be a big deal here. And if you somehow got that flip early, that would be really big for the momentum down the stretch because Colorado's in a position to make even more noise. And if you get that locked in somehow, that's a big deal. So I don't know if he'll take any more officials to Indiana. I heard maybe a little bit later, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. Either way, got to feel pretty good because, you know, compared to, I can't remember off the top of my mind the other games that he attended, but yeah, I mean, look, can you ask for much of a better performance overall? Because again, I think this is his 4th visit. You can now point to recruits and go, look, I told you, we needed to get there. We needed to gel. We needed to find our cohesion, and now we're on the right track, and look at how things are coming together, and you got a chance to be next. That's an exciting proposition as a coaching staff, as a recruiting staff, and you have to give credit to all the support staff. It's not just the coaches, it's everybody who go through and spearhead, you know, those efforts. And certainly I'm sure they'll be recruiting their tails off again over the bye week, while, you know, players may get a chance to, you know, they'll be practicing still, but get a chance to kind of, you know, ease it off just a little bit for this week. Not for the coaches and the support staff. I imagine that it's full systems go because there's so much momentum right now. You've got to capitalize on it, and you can rest during the off season, right? To a degree. But for now, now's the time when, look, everything's been building towards this. Now it's, you know, full steam ahead. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, who pops up where over the bye week, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, as it relates to this team, as a CU fan, you've got to be extremely encouraged overall by what you've seen. They started the year completely one-dimensional where they finished it. They are not that way anymore. They are not that way anymore. The second consecutive game, as I mentioned, they outran how much they threw. I think I told you in the post-game recap last week that I assumed that would probably be the last time it happened. Back-to-back weeks. Back-to-back weeks. It just shows a maturity. It shows the overall development of this group. And if you're a Colorado fan right now, here's another 2 weeks of being in the Big 12 race and talking about it. And now when this team hits the field again, it is a home stretch. And it's a race to the finish. It's going to be wet and it's going to be wild. And this is a team that hopefully will be ready for it. And I believe they will. They have given us no reason to believe that they won't right now. And they will be in a position to be making some noise coming down the stretch. And look, I like the way everything sets up. You know, a couple interesting individual moments tonight. Shiloh got benched briefly after a late hit out of bounds. I didn't think it was his best game, if I'm just being honest, but I didn't think it was horrible necessarily either. It just definitely wasn't his best performance again tonight. And look, it's not easy when you're the last line of defense, but I thought Corey Kiner, who finished with 94 yards in the ground, Evan Pryor, they hit him with that wheel route. There were a couple, you know, man-to-man coverages, and you can kind of put that on him if you want. But at this stage, you know, over the bye week, the one thing I would suggest is figure out what the hell's going on with the wheel route. That's killing them from the running back out of the backfield. It has several different times. I imagine they've gone over it and over it and over it and over it, but they got to figure out why they keep having a breakdown, and do we need to adjust something we're doing? So, look, they play a lot of man coverage. I thought Preston Hodge was outstanding tonight. I thought he was really good tonight, really good. DJ McKinney, quietly, also very good tonight. And Travis Hunter, like I said, both sides of the football. Cameron Stillman-Craig, he had a sack. He made some big plays as well. And from what I had seen on social media or being told in my ear during the broadcast, right, that apparently there was a targeting. Now we're getting a little windy here, just making sure the camera doesn't fall again. But apparently there was a targeting. They kind of got, you know, lucky that didn't get called. Although I saw it, the running back's going low. What's he supposed to do there? So I don't really have a problem with it. I imagine these guys another week to, you know, kind of rest, recuperate, and figure out what they're going to do here moving forward. And again, I think they got a good plan right now for offensive line. It's working for them. Isaiah Augustov is now RB1. I don't think it's – the one thing I didn't like the way they did that in the first half, Dallin was, I think it was 8 carries to 6. Dallin ran the ball well. You know, he was in passing situations. I didn't think he I thought, probably had his best game as a Buff tonight too. I thought he was effective, but I even said this on the broadcast that I said, look, this is a situation where in the second half you got 8 to 6. Let somebody develop a rhythm here, and it's got to be Augustov because he's earned it. And he came out tonight, again, 22 carries, 90 yards. I think he finished 12 off of his career high, and they were so close to getting the first 100-yard rusher in the Coach Prime era, but not to be this evening. So overall, all things told, another nice night from LaJohntay Wester. Certainly not as big as we've seen in the past, but some big catches. Again, Will Shepard and Travis. I mean, what do you say? Travis is so damn special, man. He's just when he's healthy, he, again, best player in the country, bar none, slam dunk. It's not even a conversation to me. And Coach Prime said as much afterwards, because it has been bothering me, quite frankly, that Shedeur is also not in the Heisman race. I just think it's ignorant, and I think it is not fair to the body of work that he's put together, because A, if he had any other last name or played at any other school, he'd be in it. But I think we understand why. And I asked Coach Prime, I go, why do you think that is? He goes, you know why. I mean, we all know why. We stopped pretending. We do know why. It's because he's a Sanders, right? And there's a lot of people out there that have their own perception of him, and a lot of them are wrong. He's a damn fine leader, and again, he's the best quarterback in the country, and he shows it week in, week out, on a week in, week out basis. He was 15 of 15 to start tonight. That's a Colorado record for completions to start a game. They kept the play. They kept the playbook. I didn't think they really opened it up too much. They kept it pretty reserved. It was a quick game. Not as good as I thought maybe last week, but again, when you're dealing with 8 DBs in coverage. That being said, Shedeur actually ended up having a better game. I just thought maybe the game plan, although a couple of those, just a couple of those bubbles, like there was a couple things where you're just not asking Shedeur to have to make some sort of crazy play every time. It's just, let's get the ball out and let's get this offense moving and pass, run and use the short, quick game as an extension of your run game. And they're figuring out more and more what they have. They're getting better and better, top to bottom. And, it is a remarkable turnaround, broad strokes from where they were 2 years ago. And obviously they brought so many new kids into this program, but Coach Prime, if this continues, and I think you have to get to 9, but 10 is a guarantee, is we're talking about top 5 candidates for Coach of the Year right now, he is one of them. He is one of them. And he's earned that. And, he's talked about, and they have talked about how, look, we did this at Jackson, it just took some time, but look, the truth is that we know this is a different level. It's no disrespect to that, but this is a different level. And I have been so impressed by how they've met the moment here this year. And look, sure, have there been things to clean up all year? Yeah, of course, but there is with every team. I mean, there is with every single team. But the consistency, the development, the run game, they've got a lot of really good ingredients in the defense. And the defense has just taken such a drastic shift from last year in the right direction that, all told, I mean, as a Colorado fan, like I said, you just have to be grateful. You have to be appreciative. You got to be pretty excited about what the rest of the season is going to look like. I'm hoping that is the last 8 o'clock kickoff. We did it. It's 2 of them. Can we be done now, ESPN? They won this week, so flex them into the 6-day window, okay? I mean, please. That's enough. I mean, look, it's just late to kick off a game, but everybody was here. The blackout was great tonight, and overall, this is just a celebratory night. And I think you deserve this 24-48 to celebrate, because you do have the bye coming up, and Coach Prime will make sure everybody's locked in, especially how they came out of the first bye week. I think they'll be sharper this time around, because you're not going to make those mistakes again. And I wouldn't say mistakes necessarily, but again, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher as you get later and later and later, and you have to remain hypervigilant, and you have to stay on top of everything. And the details, gosh, they matter so much at this time of year. And the next time Colorado plays, they'll be playing their gold games. Remember Coach Matt called them the gold games in November? Those are the wins that you get remembered for. And Colorado has an opportunity here. Now, 8 games in with 4 left to play in the regular season and a bowl game, so 5 games left this season. Colorado has a chance to be remembered for what they've done late in the year. And it really hasn't been outside 2016 that we've seen a team in the second half of the season finish really strong. And hopefully that's what we're going to see from Colorado, because it would really be a shame for them not to, because they've earned this. They put themselves in such a prime position. Now you capitalize on the moment. Now you capitalize on your opportunity. Now you got to go on the road. You got some tough games left, sure. But they're in as good a spot as they have been to see the end of a season through since 2016, and I'm fired up for it. Sure, we got a bye week. It's going to be nice to, kind of hit the reset button here. As I said, I think the schedule's broken out perfectly, but moving forward, I really like where they're at. I really do. And I know they're going to attack this, and I know they're hungry. And, you work your whole life as players for this position. As coaches, some of them, they've worked their whole careers to be in the position they are now. And now's when you don't let it slip because you've worked too hard for it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like coming out of the break. So overall, 34-23, outstanding performance in all three phases. Alejandro Mata, shout out. Got to get my player of the game. I know Travis was great. All right, Travis is great. Travis is great every time he steps on the field. Mata making the 47-yarder. I know he was down on himself, and I know I've given the young man a lot of criticism, but not necessarily just him, more the coaching staff for not kind of seeing that earlier. But Alejandro, man, that is a big-time kick. I know he's upset about the height because Coach Prime said, I don't care. That thing's over the crossbar. That's all that matters. And he was the one who put the exclamation point on Colorado's win tonight. And you move forward 6-2, 4-1 in conference, and feeling damn good about where you're at in the bye week because you know it could have been better, and you also know what you have left in front of you. As always, we appreciate you for tuning in. Now 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go finish the rest of my work because I got a very long night ahead of me. Again, like and subscribe. We got tons of content over the channel. Coach Prime, Shedeur, spoke in the presser, Khalil Benson and Justin Mayers, as well as Alejandro Mata. Tons of stuff up there. As always, we appreciate your support. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll talk this week. Take care now.